This is Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Wonderful. And he is a graduate student of the University of Massachusetts with a degree in kinesiology as well as a doctorate of chiropractic medicine from LifeWest University. He's completed postgraduate study in the area of clinical nutrition, rehabilitative exercise, and functional medicine so he can offer the most cutting-edge technique to help address his patients' growing healthcare needs. Let's give him a round of applause.
How's everyone doing today? So the goal of today's talk is to go over the roadblocks that I see most people that have even already adapted a paleo type of eating, and they're just still not quite getting to the next level. And I'm going to the goal is to figure out what those next roadblocks are that maybe are preventing them from getting optimal health. So that's the goal, to get into the other fishbowl. So there are three major stressors that are categories we can put stress into our daily life in. We have physical, chemical, and emotional stressors, and all of these stressors interplay and affect our DNA. We can literally turn genes on that make us healthy and smile, or we can turn them off. And again, our three major stressors are chemical stressors. These can be underlying hidden things like blood sugar problems, chronic infections, food allergens, leaky gut. And again, we have physical stress. These could be chronic injuries, pains, car accidents, too much, too little exercise. And we have emotional stress, financial issues. Guys hear me? Hello? Good? Okay, perfect. So again, physical, chemical, and emotional stressors. And all of these stressors interact on our DNA, and we want to be able to turn on the right genes so our DNA smiles, so we feel good, so we have optimal health. And most people have a lot of these hidden stressors that are causing us to not feel too good. And over time, these stressors accumulate, and we start developing a disease, or an ICD-9 code, if you will. And so I coined the term bucket dysfunction. So all stress goes up into our stress bucket. In conventional medicine, we know this as our allostatic load, if you will. And you can see we have our stress bucket here. Oh, this totally came out different here on the slide. But essentially, we have a bucket. All of these little stress balls go into that bucket. Medication, gluten exposure, we have a chronic gut infection, we have back pain, and all of these stressors accumulate. Stress gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and this is where symptoms occur. And this is where we get bucket dysfunction. This is where all the symptoms happen. And typically, we go see our conventional medical doctor for medication. But we know medication has side effects. So what happens is we get stuck in this vicious cycle. Here of going round and round because the medication creates side effects. We go back to the physician, and those side effects then create us to go back and forth longer and longer and longer. So our goal is actually to go back like so and take the stress balls out of our bucket. And again, even medicine knows about this. Medicine has called it the allostatic load, and what they've said is this. They said that chronic stress to the body over long periods of time acts as a predisposing factor for acute stressful events. So usually you're feeling good, you're doing good, and then one day you have a breakup in your relationship, or you go to Mexico and you eat the wrong food, and then from that day forward, you just don't quite feel the same. And that's kind of the thing we're looking at here is what's the straw that's breaking the camel's back, and being able to go backwards and pull those stress balls out of that bucket. So genetic predisposition. So we're burning the candle here at both ends, if you will. We have our metaphorical stress chain. And the longer we pull that chain tight, the chance of our stress chain breaking increases. So when we have our three stressor systems activated, we pull that stress chain, but then our body adapts to stress, right? It's a pulsatile event. Maybe you don't get a lot of sleep that night, but the next night you're back sleeping properly, so your chain goes back to normal. But over time, if we're chronically pulling that chain tight, it can break. And again, that could be cancer or heart disease, obesity, thyroid issues, female hormone issues. And again, it just depends where's that weak link on your chain. And the key is more or less just taking the stress off that chain, figuring out what three stressors in your system are activated, and to go back and to address them. So how many people have gone paleo, but they're still not feeling better? Hey, show of hands, anyone gone paleo yet? Maybe they still have some symptoms? Okay, great. This will definitely be geared to that. All right, so again, in the middle, we have infection, barriers, and breakdown. We have hormones and blood sugar, and we have digestion. These are all the underlying barriers to health. So we're going to go over what it's going to take to address that. That's the key thing. So I tried finding the most scientific slide here to depict digestion, and this is what I came up with. So when we eat food, we chew it up, we masticate, that food gets broken down and goes into our stomach. Our stomachs primarily break down protein by creating hydrochloric acid. It goes into our small intestine where we break down fat and protein further. Again, we absorb the nutrition, and then in the colon, we reabsorb the liquid part of that, and it goes out into the stool. So there's an amazing domino effect that happens with digestion. Let's review that. So in the stomach, protein and fat is eaten. You start producing hydrochloric acid. This does a couple things. It activates protein enzymes that break down protein. It creates an inhospitable environment to keep bacteria down. So we want a natural good bacteria ratio to bad bacteria. And when it's flipped, we have all kinds of health issues. We have constipation, and we start reabsorbing a lot of the metabolic toxins that these bacteria produce. And again, that low pH triggers bile and enzyme production from the small intestine, from the gallbladder, and from the pancreas. So we need that first domino in the stomach to knock down for that second and third domino to happen as well. And again, food is assimilated and absorbed. So if you're eating a nutrient-dense diet, well, guess what? You are not what you eat. You are what you eat, utilize, digest, and absorb. So if you're not breaking down the expensive grass-fed meat, or all the other good little paleo treats, there'll be a problem. You're not really getting the full benefit there. So here's your stomach. This is where digestion's happening. It's starting right there in the stomach. That's the first key domino that's needed to knock the rest down. And you can see here, according to research, a whole constellation of symptoms will occur if we have low stomach acid. So this study here showed that a H. pylori infection can create low stomach acid. And in the research, they said that this can create a constellation of symptoms, even depression. So most people are like, wait a minute, a gut infection creating depression, shouldn't it just be constipation or bloating or diarrhea or such? But again, anything can cause everything. So that's the thing. And they found that actually improving hydrochloric acid levels decreased a lot of these symptoms. They said the symptoms reduced. So our goal is to upregulate normal physiology so we can have healthy digestion. That's the goal. That's a major barrier that I see in my clinic. And people that have digestion issues typically have other underlying gut infections that are preventing normal digestion from occurring. Our adrenals. So these are our stress-handling glands that sit right above our kidneys. They manage stress, they manage energy, blood sugar stability. They help regulate inflammation too. And here's our steroid hormone pathway. These are all the hormones our adrenal glands make. And as you can see here, we have the red hormones. These are our stress hormones over here. We have our purple or pink hormones, which are our female hormones, and we have our blue, which are androgens. And again, women have more of the pink and guys more of the blue and vice versa. But essentially, when we're in a stressed out response, what starts to happen is whatever one of those physical, chemical, or emotional stressors is activated, we start developing more cortisol. It's like the water coming out of the fire hose. It's increasing because we're trying to put out that fire, whatever that stressful event is. And over time, our body starts depleting sex hormones. Our body's always designed or hardwired to treat stress in the moment. It doesn't care about tomorrow or the next day or having healthy hair or skin or having a baby. It cares about dealing with stress in the moment. So our goal is to remove that stress. But if we keep it active, even our ability to deal with stress starts dropping. And this is where infections occur. This is where our mucosal membrane barrier systems break down. And energy starts dropping as well. So our goal is to remove that underlying stressor, and then we can start bringing our hormones back into balance. That's the ultimate goal. So recap. We have our hormone building blocks. What are our hormone building blocks? Cholesterol. Cholesterol is the most important hormone building block. It's where all of our hormones come from. And if we can't break it down and assimilate it properly, we're already going to be at a deficit. And then from there, we have a balance of our inflammatory hormones, cortisol, our stress hormones, as well as our rebuilding hormones. It's a healthy balance. And when chronic stress occurs, we start to see an increase in our stress hormones and a decrease in our rebuilding hormones. So we're skewed. We're breaking down faster than we're building up. So we have to flip that ratio. And we only can flip it by pulling away the underlying stressors. That's the only way we can do it. We can take hydrocortisone cream, we can take NSAIDs, Celebrex, Vioxx, but we have to get to the root cause if we really want long-term health and success. So the goal is to flip the ratio, bringing the rebuilding hormones back up and the stress hormones down. That's the ultimate goal. So let's talk about how our adrenals and our thyroid are connected. There's a strong connection here. So this is a really confusing slide. I'm going to break it down and make it really simple here. So we have our brain talking to our adrenals over here on the left, and we have our brain talking to our thyroid on the right, and they're intimately connected. We need healthy adrenal function to activate our thyroid hormone. Let's go over that. So our adrenals are primarily the backup generator for our sex hormones, especially if you're a female going into menopause. You really need those strong adrenals. We need cortisol as well for blood sugar and energy and inflammation support. And with our thyroid, we need healthy T4, and we need it activated to T3 so we can have good metabolic function. And we need that cortisol connection to help activate our thyroid hormone. But most people, when these stressors are activated, we break our feedback loops. So again, our organs are talking back and forth to the brain. They produce these hormones, releasing hormones, if you will, and they're like the thermostat in the room. So if the thermostat's set at 70 and the temperature goes too high, well, guess what happens? The AC kicks on. And then vice versa for if it gets too low. The same thing happens with stress. The crosstalk between the glands and the organs breaks down over chronic stress. So our goal is to actually pull the stressors out so we can start communicating and talking again. And you can see we start producing more stress hormones, and we start producing more reverse T3 thyroid hormone. And reverse T3 blocks out the receptor site, so thyroid hormone that's there natural doesn't really have an effect. So our goal is to remove the stressors, pull off the roadblocks, and this is going to allow optimal health. It's just about taking the e-brake off the car, and then you can finally move. And again, the research even shows this is true. I mean, high and low states of cortisol, it creates HPA axis dysfunction. All that means is the brain being able to talk to the organs, and that's our goal. It's just getting communication. I mean, think of any relationship with people. If you're not communicating properly, there's always going to be dysfunction. All right. Inflammation is bidirectional. What that means is it's like a two-lane highway. If we have inflammation in the body, that can create inflammation in the gut. Inflammation in the gut can create inflammation in the body. Now, that's really important because most people are just so focused on, well, if something's in my stomach causing a problem, well, it's got to be a stomach symptom. Or if something's in my body, it's got to be a pain here or a pain there. But there's such a constellation of symptoms, anything can cause everything. And again, what the research shows, as I go back here one slide, issues with our gut microbiota can create immune issues, which can create issues with our intestines, with peristalsis, being able to pass through stool, also having good emotional health. There's a two-lane highway here. Those two arrows, there's communication going back and forth. So we want to not be so myopic in our perspective and know that anything can cause everything and have a holistic approach on how we're evaluating someone's problems. So here is the death rattle. Here's how disease happens. Keep it really simple. We have stress. We have digestive problems. We have mucosal membrane barrier, toxicity issues, nutrient malabsorptions, and overall a weakened immune system. This is called leaky gut. Let me break that down for you. So our tight junctions look like this. Put your hands together like this. When they're really tight, food stays in the stomach longer and gets digested properly. When we start pulling our fingers apart, pulling them apart just a hair, our tight junctions get loose and food starts slipping through into the blood system, and our immune system says, what's this food doing here? And starts tagging it. It starts creating antibodies. It says, wait, the surface protein on this gluten molecule kind of looks similar to our thyroid. Or this protein molecule from dairy looks similar to our pancreas. And our immune system starts seeing food as the invader, and we have a case of mistaken identity. So that's the issue here. We really want to fix the gut, because that's going to take so much stress off of our immune system. And again, this is the whole cycle I was talking about there. Stress, digestive problems, mucosal barrier breakdown. This is where the infection and toxicity comes. Because imagine our force field on the Star Trek, right, is down. Now the Klingons can attack, if you will. And this is where the infections and toxicity come in. We start having malabsorptions. We can't absorb our selenium, our magnesium, our calcium. Thyroid conversion goes down because we need selenium. Magnesium, is needed for over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body. So we need these nutrients, but even if we're eating them, we may not be able to absorb them. And then we start losing our IgA, which weakens our immune system. And these are our guts here. Hands together, that's a healthy gut function. And we pull our hands apart, that's what our gut looks like when it's leaky, when our hands are apart. And you can see fire in the gut is fire in the brain. We start developing a leaky brain as well. And we have inflammatory compounds turning on the immune cells in our brain. And half of our brain is immune cells. So once those cells get turned on, it's very tough to attenuate that inflammatory response. So this is the inside of our gut. And you can see 70% of our immune cells and B cells, 70% of our immune system is right in our intestines, mainly through the form of IgA that resides in our galt or our malt. And this IgA is that, it's like the force field on the Star Trek, right? And when we have this chronic stressors, when our adrenals are fatigued, when we have chronic infections, the force field's down, right? The Klingons can attack. So our goal is to actually mitigate that. Formatting's a little bit off here in the PowerPoint, so there it goes. Or not. Technical difficulty here. So I'll just describe the rest of my talk through memory here. Essentially, chronic infections can affect this mucosal membrane barrier. There are lots of infections that can affect that. Klebsiella, H. pylori, mono, Epstein-Barr, Lyme disease, various parasitic infections like Entamoeba histolytica, Blastocystis hominis. These infections take prey when that mucosal membrane barrier is broken down. So our goal is to remove the infection, which is kind of like taking the e-brake off the car. You're driving with the e-brake on, you feel that pull. That's kind of what having an infection in your system is like. And you release that pull, your body can start to heal. So that's the ultimate goal. And the PowerPoint is frozen, so I'll be just going off the cuff here. All right. So again, our goal is to look at things from a functional perspective, to figure out exactly where the underlying barriers to stress are. And when we look at autoimmunity is so prevalent today. For instance, Epstein-Barr, cytomegalovirus, we see these with autoimmune thyroid cases, H. pylori. And most of the time, you go to your conventional medical doctor, the treatment does not change. If you have an autoimmune infection, it's typically some type of immunosuppressive medication or a corticosteroid drug, none of which address the problem. So our approach is really to figure out where the underlying deficit is. So again, there's specific functional testing you can use to assess, to figure out what's going on and to get to the root cause of it. That's the ultimate goal. Here it goes. So here's the infection connection here. And these are all the various infections I just mentioned here. Klebsiella, we have H. pylori, we have Enterobacter, we have Entamoeba histolytica. That's a really nasty one. We have a hookworm, we have Epstein-Barr, we have Lyme's. All these infections are really bad, really nasty. And again, they're still common in our country today. Even according to the American physician, these infections today are still common in the United States, and I see much more every week in my practice. And again, we see the connection with the autoimmunity and all these various infections. I have an autoimmune thyroid condition, and I actually do test positive for a reactivated Epstein-Barr. So you can see, where is it? Epstein-Barr, EBV, right here. And then you can see thyroiditis. So that's a common thing, and most people are missing these infection links. That's the key thing. So what's the big idea? Everyone has the right to be infection-free, right? If you have an infection, it's holding you back from your optimal potential. So get assessed, figure out what the underlying infection is, and fix it. Eat an anti-inflammatory, nutrient-dense, low-toxin diet. We need the building blocks to heal our body, to heal our immune system. But if you're eating a great diet and you're not absorbing and breaking it down, well, you're not getting the full benefit. So fix whatever the underlying issue is. Again, use the specialized testing to figure out what the problem is. And again, get assessed. If you're not assessing, you're guessing. If you want some feedback from myself, you can feel free and visit my site, justinhealth.com. I have a link there for complimentary feedback. Feel free and check my podcast at Beyond Wellness Radio. Lots of great free information to kind of help figure out, what the next step for you is personally to move forward. And again, these issues never get better on their own. They always tend to get worse. So taking a step forward is always the best thing. Thank you very much.